Okay, you're welcome back.
Thank you, ma.
Okay, now we were discussing parasites of farm animals. Now I said, let's go back to the first slide. I said a parasite is an organism that lives in or on another organism called the host. The parasite feeds and cause harm to its host. That the host is usually
the volume of this thing.
bigger and stronger than the parasite. Please keep quiet. You are not meant to open your mouth and talk until you are asked to. I don't want any noise coming from your side. Now, I said we are considering parasite of farm animals. We've defined a parasite as an organism in or on another organism called the host, feed and cause harm to its host. That the host is usually bigger and stronger than the parasite. Then we started looking at the types of parasite. I said the parasite derives benefit like food from the host and also causes injury to its host. We have two types of parasite, endoparasite and ectoparasite. Now, what are endoparasites? An endoparasite is a parasite that lives inside the body of host and is able to cause harm. Now, example of endoparasite, you have tapeworm and roundworm. What about ecto? Parasite that lives outside or on the host, on the body of the host, is called an ectoparasite. Example, we have tick, lice, and mites. They are ectoparasites because they live on the body of the host. Now, we want to look at tapeworm. We want to look at tapeworm. Tapeworm is called Tinea solium. We have two types. Please listen. Tinea solium or Tinea saginata. Tinea solium or Tinea saginata. Tinea solium or Tinea saginata. That's the name. That's the botanical or scientific name for tapeworm. Now, a tapeworm is a long endoparasite. Is a flatworm also with a very small head, neck, and segmented body. You know what segment means? Segmented. It is a platy helminth. If you can remember, platy helminth. Now, I said we have two types of tapeworm. Tinea solium is the type of tapeworm that affects pig. Tinea saginata is for cattle. I hope you're following me. Tinea is the name for tapeworm. Now, Tinea solium is for pig, while Tinea saginata is for cattle. Now, this is your class activity. This is your class activity. You're going to draw and label a tapeworm, and then you will draw the life cycle of a tapeworm in your notes. In your note, diagram only, well-labeled diagrams. Don't discuss the life cycle. I've introduced tapeworm. I said a tapeworm is a platy helminth, is a flatworm. We have two types, Tinea solium and Tinea saginata. Tinea solium is for pig. Tinea saginata is for cattle. Now, you have an assignment, kind of activity, class activity. You will draw and label a tapeworm, and then you will draw the life cycle of a tapeworm. Now, let's discuss the life cycle. Let's discuss the life cycle of a tapeworm. Tapeworm is a hermaphrodite. Tapeworm, they are hermaphrodites. What do I mean by hermaphrodite? They are able to reproduce by themselves. It means they have both the male and female reproductive organs. Tapeworm is a hermaphrodite. It is able to reproduce by itself because they have both male and female reproductive organ in them. Now, how does the cycle repeat itself? Please listen. Tapeworm is a hermaphrodite having both male and female reproductive organ. The proglottides, there's what we call proglottides. anytime you see an adult tapeworm, you know I said that they have segments, isn't it? Now, each segment is called a proglottide. Now, an adult tapeworm, a proglottide pulls off from an adult worm. The tapeworm combined with the cyst of man. Pig picks it during feeding. That's during feeding, when pigs are feeding. The pig can pick contaminated, maybe while feeding grass that is contaminated with these matured proglottides. Then it moves straight into the intestine of the pig. In the intestine, enzymes act on it and liberates the embryo, which can find its way into the bloodstream. Now, each embryo forms a cyst to become a bladder worm. Let's go back to it. Let me narrate. This is the life cycle. Don't forget you have a class activity. You will draw and label a tapeworm. You will draw the life cycle of a tapeworm. Now, let's discuss the life cycle. Tapeworm is a hermaphrodite. I've said that earlier on. Now, don't forget, when I introduced tapeworm, I said their body is segmented. So each segment of this tapeworm is called proglottide. They pull off from an adult worm. Combined with the physics of man, that's the poo. A man that has tapeworm, when such man passes out poo or physics, there's a matured proglottide in them. Now, if this man, so-called man, excretes outside the toilet, maybe in a bush, during feeding, animals like pigs can pick, or cattle can pick this proglottide. When it is picked, they go directly straight to the intestine or the stomach. In the intestine, enzymes act on it and liberate, that open up the embryo. The embryo emerges, it comes out. When this embryo comes out, it finds its way to the bloodstream of that animal. Now, each embryo forms a cyst to become a bladder worm. Now, it is the bladder worm, when the raw and uncooked pork, those of you that eat pork meat, if you eat a pork that contains this bladder worm, or beef, if you eat uncooked beef that is not properly cooked, this bladder worm then affects man. It is eaten, and then the digestive enzymes of man dissolves the bladder worm and it becomes a tapeworm. The young tapeworm emerges and the cycle continues. Are you listening to me? Don't forget I said that it begins with a proglottides. These proglottides come out from the body of the tapeworm, mature tapeworm, at any time. Sometimes, if a man is infected with tapeworm, when the man passes excreta, or when the man excretes, the mature proglottide drops off. When the mature proglottide drops off, during feeding, grazing by cattle or pig, they pick the proglottide. When they pick it, it goes to the intestine. In the intestine, enzymes act on it. And Jethro, what is it? Somebody is saying something. Is Jethro saying something?
No, ma, sorry, ma.
Okay, let's continue. Now, I said in the intestine, please, all of you should on your video. Put on your video, please. Ulebe. Put on your video, Jonathan, or else I would disconnect your system from the class. put on your video. Most of you come online without your video being on. I don't know why. Let's continue. Now, in the intestine, enzymes act on it and liberates the embryo. Now, the embryo becomes a bladder worm. Now, this bladder worm, if such maybe cattle or pig is killed, the bladder worm is usually seen inside pork meat or cattle, that's beef. Now, when you eat uncooked pork or beef, the digestive system of man dissolves it, and that bladder worm becomes a matured tapeworm, and the young tapeworm emerges inside the body of a man, and then the cycle continues. Now, what are the economic importance of tapeworm? Number one, abdominal pain or discomfort. Any animal or man that is infected with tapeworm will have abdominal pain and discomfort. Anemia is another economic importance. That's, economic importance means the effect of tapeworm: abdominal pain, anemia, weakness, indigestion or vomiting. Any animal that is infected with tapeworm will have the following. Now, the combined effect of this symptom is called teniasis. It's called teniasis. It's on your screen. Let me go back to it. I said economic importance. You have abdominal pain or discomfort, you have anemia, you have weakness, you have indigestion and vomiting. That the combined effect of this symptom is called teniasis. Now, how do you control tapeworm? What are the control? How do you control it? Number one, examine all meats for bladder worm. When you buy your beef or you buy pork meat, those of you that eat pork meat, please examine it properly for bladder worm before you use it. Now, another way to control it is to cook your meat properly. If you cook your meat properly, the bladder worm cannot withstand heat for too long. So when you cook your meat properly, the bladder worm will die. When you cook your meat properly, the bladder worm will die. And then number three, adopt good sanitary measures so that it will not be transferred. Then number four is treat infected people. Treat infected people. Number four is treat infected people. People that are infected with tapeworm, you treat them so that the tapeworm will die and they will pass it out during feces, that they will pass it out when they are pooing. Are you listening to me? Now let's go to the next one. Let's go to liver fluke. Okay, it's like somebody is writing, and I don't know, somebody is writing and he's like, I've gone to the next slide. Please, the note will be sent, but it's good you're writing as well. But I want you to listen so that you would understand what you're writing. Don't forget, I make emphasis on you listening. It's not all about your notes, but understanding what you want to write or what you're writing. We just finished explaining the life cycle of tapeworm. Don't forget, you have to draw. You will draw the life cycle and you will draw a tapeworm. I want to see the head, the scolex. Draw and label it correctly. Now let's move to the second endoparasite, which is liver fluke. The second endoparasite, which is liver fluke. Now, what is a liver fluke and what type of animal can liver fluke affect? The liver fluke is a flattened worm, leaf-like organism. It is an endoparasite of cattle and sheep. So cattle and sheep are the host to liver fluke. Don't forget, liver fluke can affect or they are parasites of cattle and sheep. Farm animals are the primary host, while snail is the secondary host. Ashilere, can you tell the class what you understand by primary host? Ashilere.
Ma is the first host.
Good. Primary hosts are the first host, while secondary is the other host. Secondary host is the second, either second or third. If the animal lives from the first host to the second or third, the first is usually considered the primary host. But the second, third, and fourth, they are considered as the secondary hosts. Now, let's continue. You also have another activity. Draw and label a liver fluke, and then draw the life cycle of a liver fluke. Please write. As you're copying this note, give space or space your work. Give space for this diagram and then you continue. Maybe the diagram of liver fluke can take, let's say, 10 lines of your exercise book. Then you give another 10 lines for the life cycle, then you continue. So draw and label a liver fluke, draw the life cycle of a liver fluke. I'm taking note of all these activities and those that submit. When you return, I will just mark your notes and record your work. Now let's go to the life cycle. The life cycle of liver fluke. The fertilized egg are passed out with physics. That's during poo, just like the tapeworm. The eggs are hatched. The eggs are hatched into larvae. The larvae is called miracidia. Please listen. The fertilized egg of liver fluke comes out from the secondary host when the secondary host passes excrete or physics. Now the eggs are hatched into larvae called miracidia. The eggs are hatched into larvae called miracidia. The miracidia swims and gets itself attached to a water snail. So you see why I said we have the first host, which is the farm animal, and snail, the secondary host. So the farm animal that have matured liver fluke, when that animal, either cattle or sheep, when they pass physics, they pass out the matured worm. So the eggs are hatched into larvae called miracidia. This miracidia swims and is attracted to water snail. When it enters the water snail, it changes to parasite and become a ridae. Please take note of these words. Miracidia is the hatched larvae. Miracidia gets itself attached to water snail, and then when it enters the water snail, it changes to what we call sporocytes. Inside the water snail, the sporocytes become radiae. Is that taken? Nod your head, please. Is that taken?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
now,
ma'am.
The radiae develops into a minute worm called sarcaria. Please underline this word, sarcaria. The radiae develops into a minute worm called sarcaria. The sarcaria leaves the snail into water, where it is picked by any farm animal when they are drinking water. So when that water is contaminated by sarcaria, the animal feeds when they graze or drink contaminated water, they pick the sarcaria, and the cycle continues again and again. Now let's look at the economic importance. Liver fluke causes a disease we call bilharzia. Bilharzia or schisto. Somebody is saying something. Ashilere, did you? Somebody said something.
My Somto.
Somto, what is it?
Ma, please can you explain this slide?
Okay, now thank you. I like that. It means she's following. Some of you, you are just interested in the note. You're not listening to what I'm explaining. You're just writing. I've told you, listen. While you write, listen. Somto said I should explain this slide. It means she is listening. Now let's go back to it. I said the liver fluke. Any animal that is affected or infected with a liver fluke, when the animal passes out poo or feces, the eggs comes out from that matured animal. Now the eggs are hatched into larvae. The larvae of liver fluke is called miracidia. The miracidia swims and attaches itself to water snail. Inside the water snail, the miracidia becomes sporocytes. Now the sporocyte becomes radiae. Now it is this radiae that develops into.
Ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, if you go back to the slide, ma'am, you see attracted to something, but you say attached.
Yes, it is attracted to water snail. That's the water snail picks it. The miracidia naturally, the water snail feeds on tiny miracidia. Do you understand?
Okay, ma'am.
It is attracted. It's just like a little fingerlings in the water. So the water snail is naturally attracted to miracidia, unknowing that it is the larva form of liver fluke. So the snail acts as a secondary host. Inside of the snail, the miracidia develops to sporocytes and become a radiae. Now, it is this radiae that develops into a minute worm called cercaria. Now, the cercaria leaves the snail. Once it develops into the cercaria in the body of the snail, it comes out, it drops off. Now, when it drops off, when animals like cats and sheep graze or drink water, they pick the cercaria. When they pick the cercaria, it develops fully in the body of the cattle and the cycle continues. I believe I've explained the life cycle of liver fluke. Now, let's look at the effect. What are the effects of liver fluke for the sake of our time? The economic importance, that's the effect of liver fluke. It causes bilharzia. Bilharzia is also called schistosomiasis. Please take note of that word and underline it. Bilharzia is also called schistosomiasis. Is a disease. Any cattle that is infected with liver fluke, if you eat the meat and it's not properly cooked, that person will have schistosomiasis. It's a disease. Now, number two, it affects the digestion of food in animals. It affects the digestion of food in animals. Now, number three, the excretory products of flukes or liver fluke have a poisoning effect on the sheep or cattle. Number four, it results to liver rot. That's the rotting of the liver of such animal, which can eventually lead to death. That is why it is advisable you cook your beef properly, very well, before eating. Now, how do you control liver fluke? One, drain the pasture properly, introduce duck. Now, listen, I want you to listen. I said the second point is, Ezema, this is your question. David and Daniel, Ezema, please listen to my question. Now, remember last time we looked at pests and diseases, isn't it? And then we also looked at the control. Now, I said number 2, introduce ducks and grease to eat up the snail. What kind of control is this statement? Ezema. What kind of control is this statement?
Biological control.
Wonderful, that's correct. Biological control. Biological control of pest and disease means you bring a predator that will feed on the prey. So introducing ducks and grease to eat up snail is a biological control of liver fluke. Then also, thirdly, you can also use lime, as the eggs do not hatch in alkaline water. You know, lime is a source of alkaline. So when you put lime inside a water, or the water of your sheep or cattle, it will alkaline the water, and the eggs would die, will not hatch into miracidia. Now, the last one, please. Let's go to tick. Tick, I took 2 endoparasites and 1 ecto. So this is an ectoparasite. I'll be fast because of our time. They will get the note sent to you. Tick. A tick is an ectoparasite. It lives on or inside the fur, that's on the skin of sheep, cattle, dog, etc. The life cycle of a tick occurs in 4 stages. The egg stage, larvae, nymph, and adult stage. It means the tick undergoes what kind of metamorphosis? Ashilere. What kind of metamorphosis is this? Egg, larva, nymph, and adult. She's not saying anything. Lily. Daniel, are you raised? Lily, what kind of metamorphosis is that? I said the life cycle of a tick undergoes 4 stages: egg, larvae, nymph, and adult. Who can tell us? Ibrahim.
Ma?
Tell us, what kind of metamorphosis is that?
Ma is a complete metamorphosis.
Wonderful, complete metamorphosis. God bless you. Now let's go to the life cycle quickly. Let's go to the life cycle. The mature tick lays egg in the ground and die after sucking blood. Please listen. When a mature tick on the body of its host sucks blood, if it's a female, it lays egg and die. It drops off and die. The egg hatches into larvae, attaches itself to the skin of another animal, passing, and then sucks blood and falls to the ground. Now, the larvae sucks blood and molt. Molt means it develops into nymph with 8 eggs. The nymph also attaches itself to another animal, sucks blood, and falls to the ground again. Now, when it sucks blood and falls to the ground, it develops into an adult. So the cycle continues like that. The mature tick lays egg in the ground and dies. After sucking blood, the egg hatches into larvae. The larvae attaches itself to the skin of another passing animal, sucks blood, and develops into the nymph stage. The nymph, at the stage of nymph, it falls to the ground and dies. Okay. Now, the nymph attaches itself to another animal and then sucks blood and dies also. The nymph becomes an adult. After sucking blood, it develops to an adult stage. It develops to an adult stage. Now, let's go to the next slide. If the adult stage is a female, it sucks blood of the animal and the cycle continues. But if it is a male, It searches for a female to mate with and die after mating. I hope you're following what I'm explaining. If the adult tapeworm is a female, the female will suck blood, produce egg, lay the egg and die. But if it's a male, the male will go about the body of that animal looking for a female to mate with. After mating, the male tick will fall off and die as well. I hope that is clear. Now let's look at the economic importance. Let's look at the economic importance. Do you have any questions so far? Please, if you have questions, you can as well speak.
Ma, I have a question.
Yes, my dear, go on.
Ma, why does the male tick die?
That is their nature. Once they suck blood, they die. It's their nature, it's in the circle. Once they mate and feed on blood, they fall off and die. The same for the female. The only difference, Peace. What is it? Peace is raising up her hand. Peace. The only difference is that the female will have to lay her eggs. So she sucks blood. Yes.
Ma, what if the male doesn't find any female to mate with?
He remains on the body of its host until he finds a female to mate with. That male will fall off from the body and die. Any other question?
No, ma.
Okay, let's look at the economic importance quickly. Our time. Economic importance of tick. It causes great annoyance and irritation to their host. If your domestic dog is having tick on the body, you will see them annoyingly, they will be scratching, itching their fur. So it causes irritation. Tick also acts as a vector of diseases, and then injuries from tick bite may become ulcerated wound. These are the three economic importance. Yes, my dear.
Please, what do you mean by ulcerated?
Or like kind of wound that is ulcerated, ulcer. You see the flesh. I don't know if you have experienced this. If you have a wound on your skin and it's getting dry, but later you scratch, you itch the place, you notice that it will become fresh. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
It will become fresh. Daniel, let me finish. So that fresh wound is called ulcerated wound. Yes, Daniel, do you have a question?
Yes, Mama, those tick used to kill those.
What did you say?
Ticks, ma, do they kill dogs? Ticks.
Do they?
Kill.
How about guys?
I'm not hearing him.
Ma,
do ticks kill dogs?
How about?
They don't kill dogs.
Oh.
Now control. Keep animal in clean surroundings and pick tick from the body of their host. Some of you with dogs that have tick, maybe Alsatian dogs, German shepherds. Some of you, if you're in love with such dog, you can hand pick the ticks from their body. But please wear gloves, wear hand gloves. Now spray with solution to destroy ticks. And then you have your assignment. Please listen. Discuss and draw the life cycle of roundworm. Roundworm is called ascaris lumbricoides. Roundworm is called ascaris lumbricoides. So you discuss and draw the life cycle of roundworm. Discuss and draw the life cycle of lice. We looked at endo and ectoparasites today. I discussed 2 life cycle of endoparasite, 2 endoparasites and 1 ecto. So you will do the same thing. You will discuss the life cycle and draw it. Draw for ascaris. Ascaris is an endoparasite, while lice is an ectoparasite.
Ma, please, should I send the notes?
You said?
Oh, they send the notes.
Yes, my dear. They will send the notes. I will make sure they do it now before leaving the school. They will send your note. General WhatsApp.
That last slide.
Ma, please, can you go back to slide 15?
Okay, my love. It's here. It's on the screen. Last slide, the control measures of tick is on the screen. I said keep animals in clean surroundings and pick tick from the body of their hosts and then spray with solution to destroy ticks.
Ma, go back to the slide after that one.
Okay, that is the assignment. Discuss and draw the life cycle of roundworm, which is ascaris lumbricoid. Discuss and draw the life cycle of lice. That brings us to the end of the class.
I sent my assignment to your WhatsApp number.
Okay. Now, Lily, let's pray. Father, we thank you for we have come to the end of the class. We ask that you grant the students retentive memory and help them to do the assignments and read their notes in Jesus' name.
Amen.
So I'll see you next week, Monday.
Bye-bye, ma. Bye-bye, ma.
Thank you.
No. Yeah,